after a very long wait, I'm gonna prepare pig's ears for dehydrating. I've already started on some last night because I ordered 32 and I can only fit 12 on the dehydrator at any one time, so I've already started on 12, which are here. When I cleaned the pig ears, I also cut out the auricles, which is the inner part of the ear. I'll show you in a minute. So I've got the pig ears, which obviously I can't fit that bit on the dehydrator and it would be too fatty as well. So I cut the outside of the ear off, which leaves me with the inner part, which is the auricle. The inner part is cartilage, which you can dehydrate as well, which makes a nice treat for the dogs as well. And then what is left over, there's always a little bit of skin left, with obviously leftover meat. I then cut the skin off and dehydrate the leftover skin as well. The meat and fat that is left over, I'll put in a freezer bag and freeze and add it to a meal for my dogs. Now, normally I wouldn't advise adding the fatty meat to the meal, especially not if your dog is not used to eating pork. If your dog is used to eating pork and is used to getting quite a bit of fat in a meal every now and again, then obviously, like mine, you won't have a problem. I'll show you the prepared product. So that is the pig ear when cut off of that big chunk. A little bit of skin strip which I've cut off from the leftover part. Put that back on. And we have the auricle, which is the inner part of the ear, which is cartilage. It takes a little bit of effort, but like most people that do know me know, I hate wasting anything. So if I can use it, I will use it. Now what do you need? Your cutting board, a knife, a pair of scissors. It all depends on what you prefer using. You can cut the ear off with your scissors, you can cut it with a knife. It's all up to you. If you do use a knife, make sure that your knife is really sharp. I'm terrible at sharpening knives, but I have found one product which is any sharp. I've ordered that online after seeing a post on Facebook. It's only a small sharpener and didn't think it would be worth getting, but now that I've used it a couple of times, it's absolutely brilliant and foolproof. Even for someone like me, I can sharpen my knife. So if you're looking for a decent knife sharpener, and no, I'm not being sponsored, this is an absolute brilliant sharpener. All you do is clip it to your worktop and pull your knife through a couple of times. And as I said, even for someone like me, it's absolutely foolproof. When you're done, just put it away. It's as simple as that. So we've got pig ears, the dehydrator, scissors and a knife. Now with my dehydrator, I can never ever fit the pig ears on without weighing it down. Once it starts dehydrating and the ear starts shrinking, I don't need a weight anymore like with this one, but you'll see when I start putting the ears on, I'll weigh it down, and I normally use just a bottle of water or something. And no, that's not the reason I broke one of my trays. This one has a tray less, because with plastic trays the chances of the plastic trays getting brittle is really high, which I've had with this dehydrator, hence the replacement. So let's get started. I've got my pig here. That's what I put on the dehydrator straight away. Now what I've got left over is the meat, fat, cartilage and a little bit of skin. So the Oracle, because it's cartilage, dehydrates really well and makes a really nice treat as well. Or I should say the dogs love it. I wouldn't eat it. So that's one done. Now if you really want to use everything from the pig's ear, by which I mean anything possible, there's also a little bit of cartilage, a small piece, right where the earlobe is supposed to be. You can take that out and dehydrate and they'll make smaller treats. I'll just do it with this one, just to show you. I've kind of given up on it because it's quite a lot of faffing about. And I just break my finger once again. But hey ho. So yeah, you've got this little bit of cartilage, which is basically where the earlobe is supposed to be, which you can dehydrate as well, but as I said, I don't really bother with that bit. It'll just go with the leftover meat and I'll get it with a meal. Now, the leftover skin I do take off. Instead of using my scissors, my knife, I tend to use my scissors for this because I find it a little bit easier and quicker. That's all trial and error, and obviously less chance for me to stab myself. Now obviously you don't have to cut off the bit of skin, you can just throw that if you want, or if you are planning on feeding the leftovers to your dogs. Leave it on and feed it when doing a raw meal prep. But I just think it makes nice little treats for them. So yeah, put them on the dehydrator as well. The reason I haven't put this one on yet, and I'll show you, I already mentioned that I've got to weigh the trays down for this. Turn that around. That will press on the tray too much. So I always put the oracles on the top tray. Why do I put it on the top tray? The lid is curved, so I don't have to press the lid down, prevent that one from breaking. So yeah, save that. Let me grab a freezer bag, because I forgot that. Save the leftovers, which is a little bit meat and quite a lot of fat, and that will be going in the freezer. Now I don't give the fat as a complete meal. I always add the fatty bits with leaner cuts of meat, so they don't get too much fat in one go. And we can go on to the next one. The place I ordered my ears from have quite big ears, as you can tell. Where I used to get it from, the ears were quite a bit smaller, so I used to be able to fit 3 or 4 ears on one tray. Now I can only fit 2 ears on one tray, which I'm not complaining about, because at the end of the day it's more for the dogs, at roughly the same price as what it would normally cost me for the smaller ones. If you're wondering where you can buy pig ears, a lot of raw food suppliers will stock raw pig ears. Also you could ask your butchers. I've got in contact with a store called Big Europe. It's a European supermarket in the town I live. Obviously they don't stock it as standard, but I just put in an order and they'll order it in for me. And the only reason I started doing that is, in the beginning I could get it for the same price as the place I used to get it from. However, like with everything, prices have gone up, but it still works out cheaper than having to drive to the supplier and use petrol money. So in that respect, I'm not too bothered. And like I said, the ears are bigger than the ones I used to get as well. So yeah, European supermarkets, butchers, raw food suppliers. In Northampton, Northampton Raw Dog Food, you can get them from there. If in stock, I'd suggest you bring up first, ask if she's got any. Zena Taylor, the owner, is a really nice lady, and she will help you wherever she can. So if you live in Northampton, feel free to visit Northampton Raw. Again, I'm not affiliated with her, but I have got I've ordered some things from her, and the service has always been excellent and friendly. You'll be greeted by her 2 dogs when you walk into the shop. That's another ear done. Now I've got to weigh it down. I also got to look how I'm going to put them on, because there's two sides to this dehydrator, and I'll show you with the empty trays. With mine I can put the trays on two ways. I can put them on like that without spacing. That's alright if you've got like small bits like the beef paws I've done in a previous stream, or with the bigger items such as this, turn them around slightly. You'll notice that the trays are a little bit higher and they've got a little bit more space in between, yet still for the piggies it's not high enough. So I'll have to weigh them down until they start dehydrating, e.g. extracting moisture, and they'll shrink, and then I can take the weight off of them. Again, why do I make so much effort cutting the oracles out? It's just to give my dogs an extra treat, and why not? It would be a shame really to pay just for this bit and leave that bit which is just as good. Why would I throw that? But it all depends on how much effort you want to put in yourself. You don't have to. I just think I get more value for money that way. Again, you could use scissors or for the skins, or a knife, or you could just leave it and throw it, or if you feed it with a meal at some point. Personally, I just make, it is a little bit of extra faffing, but it'll make an extra treat. This one does not want to cooperate. Now, I can understand if you've got a small dog, a massive ear like that can be quite daunting. Which, personally, if I had a small dog like a Chihuahua or a Dachshund or something like that, I wouldn't give a big massive ear like that. You could always either cut the ear in half before dehydrating, because it's rather impossible to do once they are dehydrated because they get too hard. So yeah, when you've got a small breed and don't particularly want to give a big massive ear like that, you can always cut them in half, in fours. I'll show you. Or just in strips, personally, for small breeds. So you can decide how big of a treat you want to give your dog. So you cut them in half, depending on the size of your dog, or you just cut the ear in 4 strips. I'll do it with this one because I've got 33 ears instead of the 32 ears ordered, so I have got one spare. So yeah, that way you'll have a slightly smaller treat if you've got small breed dogs. They'd still love them equally. If you just joined us, welcome to another live stream. Tonight we're doing pig ears. They are a little bit more work than pig skins or beef paws, for example, but they are definitely worth it. I've looked at prices, and pig ears in stores like Pets at Home, it's £1.59 for just one ear, which to me is ridiculous, especially if you've got 4 dogs. It becomes rather expensive. So for me it works out cheaper just to dehydrate them myself. I pay about £3 for a kilo of pig ears, and the running cost of the dehydrator is about 14p, so it's not that bad, and I definitely get my money's worth out of it, especially considering that I don't only get the ears themselves as treats, but the auricles as well, and I dehydrate the remainder of the skin which is left from the offcut. Which is something you don't get when you buy a pig's ear from Pets at Home. So yeah, £1.59 or 75p per ear just makes a huge difference to me. Yes, it's a bit of faffing about, but it's value for money, and in that respect definitely worth it for me, especially if you've got more dogs. And pig ears is another reason why I would love a dehydrator with stainless steel trays and back fan. Because all I have to do is pull the trays out instead of having to press them down and try not to break the trays I've got. With the back fans, you just pull the stainless steel tray out, put them on, put them back. If you haven't got enough space, leave one or two trays out so you can dehydrate them as is without having to weigh them down. Also with a back fan dehydrator, everything dehydrates more evenly, as where with the ones I've got I end up having to swap trays in between time, because all the heat comes from the bottom, so by the time it gets on top, the bottom ones dry quick, the top ones don't, so I swap the trays over in between time. Not a biggie, still works out cheaper, but just a bit of an annoyance. So that's one thing I'm trying to save up for, to get a dehydrator with back fan. Hopefully a 9 or 10 tier one as well, so I can fit more in at any one time. Also important. Right, put my bottom on there so it stays put. Mind you, I'll put that on that dehydrator. A little bit of space. Put that lid back on. Oh, on this one. If you haven't got a dehydrator and don't know if you really want to invest in one until you actually try dehydrating for yourself, you can always use your oven. However, the running cost of an oven is more expensive than the running cost of a dehydrator, so you've got to think about that as well. Also, you've got to make sure that your oven goes down to 70 degrees or lower. Any type of meat you put on the dehydrator goes on 70 degrees Celsius. If you want to do fruit or veg, which you can do on a dehydrator as well, it's 50 degrees. If you want to make treats that contain both, for example chicken strips and wrapped sweet potato around it, I suggest you dehydrate the chicken strips first at 70 degrees, and then once that is done, wrap the sweet potato around it and dehydrate it on 50 degrees until it's done. When you are using an oven to dehydrate, always leave your oven door ajar, that way all the moisture can go out of the oven. Again, it is a little bit of faffing about, but I do want to try and get the most out of the pig ears. So the more treats I can get out of it, the better for my pocket, to be fair. This one, I don't know if you can see, it's got quite a lot of hair left on it. Do I take that off? No, I don't. You could take it off, but I just don't see the point. The dogs will eat it with hair regardless, and besides that, it just gives them a little bit of extra roughage. Which they need in their diet anyway. Now if you're a raw feeder, feeding whole prey like a whole rabbit, a whole quail, that kind of thing. By whole, I mean with jacket on, so with fur or feathers. You'll know that feeding the fur and feathers actually has got an advantage because it helps clear out the system. It gives them extra roughage. So yeah, I just don't bother. Put that on. If you have been thinking about raw feeding and want to learn more before actually starting, feel free to have a look on my website, which the link to the website is at the bottom of the video screen, or you can type in www.16paws.co.uk. Yes, I know the site is based in the UK, but everything applies regardless of where you are in the world. I also got suppliers lists for different countries, for like America, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Holland. Obviously I will be adding more in due time. So if you are interested in raw feeding, feel free to follow the website. You can follow me on Twitter or Instagram, where I'll be keeping you up to date about new future broadcasts, updates about the website, etc, etc. So feel free to give me a follow. If you're in the chat at the moment, I really do apologise. I'm doing this live through my phone, so I have not got a screen in front of me where I can read the chat. So I'm not being ignorant, but I can't read the chat and do the live at the same time because I just have not got a screen in front of me. But if you are in chat, or if you are just watching, welcome and thank you. It's another arts and crafts show with animal parts, with the purpose to make treats for our dogs. normally my dogs are in and out of the kitchen constantly, but for some reason they seem a bit tired tonight. Mind you, they didn't get an awful lot of sleep last night, so I can't blame them. Again, I'll have to press this down because otherwise it will not fit. I will take the weight off eventually once it starts dehydrating and shrinking. But to begin with, I do have to weigh my trays down. For those who joined in the middle of it or just joined, if you've got a small dog and are not too keen on the idea of giving them a big massive ear like the ones I've got, you can always portion them up before dehydrating, by which I mean you can cut them in half like this, or you can cut them in strips. So if you have got a small dog, you can make smaller treats that way. So don't be put off by not doing any pig's ears. You can basically cut them to size to make it appropriate for your dog, or what you feel is appropriate for your dog. I mean, I can understand if you've got something like a Chihuahua, a big massive ear like this would be a bit too much in one go. In which case, cutting them in half or quarters would be a good idea. You don't need a lot of tools, you don't need an expensive dehydrator. My dehydrator only cost me £20 from eBay, because I didn't want to invest in an expensive one to start with, because I didn't know whether or not a dehydrator would be for me and whether or not I would use it a lot. Now, roughly a year later, I'm absolutely regretting not investing in a more expensive one, because my trays started to get brittle, they started breaking. I've already, after the first couple of weeks, my first tray broke, and that was even before I was doing pig ears and before I was weighing the trays down, so it had nothing to do with that. I got in touch with the reseller, and instead of just sending me a few replacement trays, he sent me out a whole new unit, which I really appreciated, especially now that I'm doing more larger batches. It really does come in handy having a second one. But I wished, and I mean that back then I would have invested in a more decent one with stainless steel trays and back fan straight away. But hey ho, if only I knew everything before actually diving into it. Can't know everything in advance in life, can we? So we all learn by our mistakes. So yeah, if you are thinking of getting a dehydrator, you're serious about it, I'd suggest, if you can, because obviously not everyone is able to, I'm not able to at the moment, but if you are able to, invest in a decent one. My next step will be one with stainless steel trays and a back fan, preferably one with 9 trays, so a 9 tier minimum. And I have got one I've got my eyes on, but it's £119, which is £119 I haven't got at the moment, so I've got a bit saving up to do for that one. I've been asked, do I sell any of the treats I make? And no, I do not sell any of the treats I make. The reason why I don't sell any of the treats is because I don't want DEFRA to be knocking my door. I'll explain why. Even if you bake dog biscuits or you make small treats at home and you were to give that to like your parents for your parents' dog, your next door neighbour for their dog, you can get sued. Never mind starting to sell them, because that would make it even worse. People have actually been questioned after giving treats to, e.g. someone in training classes, because they were joined a training class with their dog. Someone didn't have any treats on them, so they offered some homemade treats, and that person actually got taken to court. Hold on. Sorry, my dogs were being naughty. So yeah, I just definitely do not want to take that risk of getting dragged into court over something like that. So no, I do not sell any of the treats I make. So for those that have asked if I could make treats for them and if I would sell them, I do apologise, but no. If you are interested in dehydrated treats, seriously invest in a dehydrator. It doesn't have to be an expensive one, except mine was only £20, even though I'm regretting it because I'm dehydrating that much that I would have benefited from a more expensive one. But yeah, start dehydrating your own treats. As you can tell, it's not hard to do, and you can do so many different treats. You just have to let your imagination do the work for you. Besides, it doesn't have to end with treats for your dogs. You can use your dehydrator to make something for yourself, e.g. banana chips, dehydrated apple or apricots. You can do anything. As I said more towards the beginning of this live stream, if you're dehydrating meat, dehydrate it on 70 degrees. So again, if you are thinking of purchasing a dehydrator, make sure it goes up to 70 degrees Celsius. I'm sorry for my American friends because I don't know about how much that is in Fahrenheit. If someone is in chat and you know how much 70 degrees Celsius is in Fahrenheit, feel free to pop it in the chat. I do apologise, I should have come more prepared. Is there any way I can fit more on? Sorry, I'm going to try and make a little bit more space because I have got a few years left. And if I can create a bit more space, I can finish them off. Yay! I've got an extra tray. And so, because the first dehydrator, this one, a couple of the trays got brittle and one broke. I only have 5 trays on this one instead of the 6 which I've got on that one. Luckily the online seller I've got the dehydrator from instead of sending me a couple of replacement trays, he sent me out a whole new unit, which I was surprised about. That at the same token really pleased. That to me says he's a good reseller. No questions asked, not asked to send proof, not asked to send the trays for inspection, just plain and simple. Right, I acknowledge your problem and I'll send you out a replacement. So yeah, you start with one big massive ear. Out of that big massive ear, you've got the part of the ear you dehydrate as a whole. Unless, like I previously explained, if you've got a big dog, a small dog, and you don't want to give it large treats, you can always either cut them in half or in strips. You could even cut it in quarters, so instead of cutting them in strips, cut them in quarters like that. Just depends on what you want, because I can appreciate that that one whole big ear would be too much to stomach for a small dog. But if it's the first time you're feeding pig ears, it can be a bit too fatty, which then can upset the stomach. So if it is the first time you're giving pig ears, it might be an idea to just start with a quarter or a half as well. When you do want to halve them or quarter them, I'd suggest you do them whilst raw, because it'd be an impossible task to cut them in half once they are dehydrated, because they're just too hard to do so. Again, I dehydrate the auricle. All it is, the auricle, which is the inner ear, all it is cartilage, so it's not bone. It dehydrates really nicely and it makes another nice treat for the dogs. So out of that one ear, I basically get 3 different types of treats. I've got the ear itself, I've got the auricle, which is the cartilage, and the leftover skin. Now, if you haven't fed raw before, or your dog is not used to either pork or fatty meat, I'd suggest you just throw the meaty fatty part that's left over. If you are a raw feeder, you can do what I do, just put them in a freezer bag and mix it with other meals. I wouldn't feed this as a meal on its own, because it'll be too fatty and it will upset their stomachs. What I do is I'll mix it with a leaner cut of meat. This could be rabbit, it could be duck, it could be turkey. As long as it's a leaner cut of meat, you should be fine. But again, if your dog is not used to pork, introduce it slowly, because you don't want any stomach upsets. That being said, even though with mine the tummies are alright, one seems to be getting the occasional smelly wind when she decides to pass wind when she's at pork, but then again she also gets that when she's had egg. That are the two things that tend to give two of my dogs smelly bums. Egg, and there's nothing worse than an egg fart. Sorry to put it that bluntly. If you really like faffing, you've seen that I've already cut the auricle out. There is a little bit of cartilage left here as well, which is basically from the earlobe. You can cut that out and dehydrate as well. I'll try and show you as best as I can, but I think it's a bit too much faffing about. I have done it in the past, but then for the amount of work that goes into that little bit, it's just not worth it. And I'll just leave it on, and I'll get it when they get through their dinner anyway, so it's not that I'm wasting it. But if you do want to do it, that's totally up to you. I'll just show you with this one. So yeah, again, another bit of cartilage which you could dehydrate, and it would make a nice small treat, for example for training or something, but I just don't think that's worth the effort. I'll just stick with my auricles, my skin and my ears themselves, and it's not like it's getting wasted anyway, so I just leave that bit. As I said, it's a bit too much faffing about for my liking. And now, after 12 years, my knife is really starting to get blunt, which I hate. Put it on that one. That don't fit. Rubber. At least doing the pig ears you get less greasy hands compared to the pig skins I've done last week, which is a bonus. I don't know about you, but I hate getting greasy fingers, believe it or not, even though I never wear gloves. But that's a method to my madness. Obviously you can wear gloves if you want to, I just choose not to. Why? I'm as good as blind in my left eye, so I haven't got my eyesight on that. And my eyesight on my right eye is only about 50 to 60%. So not the best eyesight in the world, so I tend to use my fingers a lot to feel, e.g. see what I'm doing. It sounds weird, but something I've gotten used to throughout the years. So I'm not blind, well, not really. I'm partially sighted, and I just use my hands to feel what I'm doing a lot of the time. So that's a little secret coming out. Right, all my ears are done except for cutting this in half now, because obviously I have 4 dogs and not 3. And I'll show you what the end product kind of looked like. I've already, as I said in the beginning of the live stream, I'd already started dehydrating 12 pig ears last night. Why? I ordered 32 and there's no way. As you can see now, I can fit 32 pig ears on one dehydrator. I've got 24 now, which includes the 4 strips I've got here. And I still got in the freezer. So I already started 12 off yesterday. The advantage of that is I can show you what the end product will look like. Again, the skin I cut off the offcuts, which I've done here, will turn out like that, which makes a nice small treat. The oracles, when dehydrated, will look like that, which is, where are we? There. So, dehydrated raw. You can actually see how much it shrinks once the moisture and everything is out. And the pig ears, it's almost done. It's just a little bit, I'd like it a little bit drier, but yeah, it's almost done. Dehydrated and raw, so you can kind of see the difference. It's actually, once dehydrated, they actually see through. Now, because you've all been good, Razzle, we've got quality control here. Rascal. Good boy. Layla. Layla. Good girl. TT. Good girl. And Bebe. Thank you. Good boy. So, quality control has approved. Right, that's the end of my stream. Thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it informative. And I definitely hope to see you next time. Thank you ever so much. Right, problem. How the fucking hell am I going to fit this on? Who's going to tell me how to fit this on? 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Right, have we got everything? We got everything. Can that go on? That can go on.